I grew up with Wizards of Waverly Place. Come on, I grew up in the 2000s. Anyone who grew up in the 2000s knew about this show. And when Ravensholm came along and said, there is a market for a show that was airing in the 2000s and now could go a few decades in the future, well, it's sort of inevitable that Wizards would get Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. I mean, popular show in the 2000s, we live and die on reboots. It's a good formula for money. So, we're following Justin after he failed his dream at being a WizTech headmaster, and he has to mentor this new wizard, Billy, who is stupid powerful and is destined to save the world. Will the sequel live up to the original, or will it fall flat on its face? Let's dig into Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. We open in Staten Island suburbia at the Russo household. Roman Russo is in bed playing on his Nintendo Switch when his brother asks if he's sleeping. Based on the lighting in the scene, it's in the early morning. Roman freaks out when his brother Milo decides to scare him by pretending to be a bat monster. Milo finds Roman screaming to be intimidating, as opposed to pretending to be a bat monster, as Roman would note. Though Milo does have a point. Roman, you regularly go up against supervillains on Disney Junior. You can handle this. Roman wants his own room now. After Roman storms off, we meet Billy, who walks through the mirror. Though Billy is told by Alex off-screen not to do that. Milo is obviously freaked out by the existence of wizards and finds the idea of changing in a bathroom mirror much scarier. As you can expect, when Roman storms back in the room thinking, hey, this whole I want my own room thing isn't going to be that bad. We can still share so long as you don't let your imagination run wild. Yeah, Milo informs him, and then Roman immediately doesn't believe it. Then, after the opening credits, we see Justin and what he's been up to, making compliments of himself in the mirror. Then we meet Giada, Justin's wife. I gotta say, David Henry still got it. Really rolled my eyes at the line, well, you know coordinating family logistics is my love language. It's not that it's a bad line, it's because it's so good, it punched me back to the 2000s. Obviously, the kids storm in, and they forgot their dad's birthday. Justin gives the whole there's no such things as monsters speech. During the diatribe, he says he couldn't have been a monster hunter because he wasn't a wizard. I really hate the joke where someone goes and says, there's no such thing as monsters, and then goes on a diatribe unprompted about their actual secret identity. It's one thing to be bad at just synthesizing excuses for your erratic behavior like superheroes do, but the fact that Justin so casually brings up magic without being prompted, really, his only prompting was, tell Milo that monsters don't exist, and Justin goes, well, monsters don't exist, because I know, because I wasn't a monster hunter, because I wasn't a wizard. It's just that type of joke. It's never funny. It's always, to use the language of the youth, cringe. Okay, we get another scene of Billy using the mirror as a door. Okay, I know Milo's comment about changing in front of the bathroom mirror was a joke earlier, but does nobody in this world have anti-mirror accessing spells? I feel like this would be a bit of a liability. Like, someone could literally assassinate someone else through a mirror, or kidnap someone. That's just, like, a lot of risk. Like, what if an assassin came in through, like, something else reflective, like bath water, and just strangled someone in the bathtub? Okay, I'm thinking too much about this. Time for Alex. She's back and uses the front door like a normal person. Alex brought over Billy to be Justin's new student. Anyway, Billy first mistakes Justin for Max, who is now a sandwich billionaire. Yeah, Justin is now a middle school vice principal and not a wizarding headmaster. So the WizTech shirts get taken by Justin because he's keeping this a secret from his family. Also, Billy on the broom. She's nuts to the kids, but they don't know she's a wizard yet. So, back on Justin not telling his whole family about the magical past. Ever since the unicorn incident that got him kicked out of WizTech's headmaster position, he's been living a routine, normal, predictable life. So back to the whole Justin has been a wizard and he hasn't told his family about it yet. What he's been telling his family is that Alex was a dog walker. In reality, Alex She basically makes 50,000 mistakes. Russo is on the Wizard Tribunal. She's basically running the wizarding world. Meanwhile, to prove that she's a wizard, Billy summons a creature called the Flugie. I know the special effects are bad, but I think that's part of the charm. Even by 2000s standards, Wizards of Waverly Place didn't have the best special effects, but I think the cheapness is part of the charm. Not to mention, this keeps the budget low. Obviously, we're remaking the Justin Alex dynamic with Roman and Billy. So, in true Wizards of Waverly Place fashion, some problem is going to arise, aka the Flugie, and they're going to try to wait for it and try to solve it on their own until it gets too big and they have to go running to someone to actually fix it all. Justin isn't too happy about Alex being on the tribunal either. Envy and wanting quiet, predictable life. These sounds contradictory, but honestly, they're not. And later in this episode, we establish that they're not because he does legitimately miss that life. Also, Giada ends up petrified by the Flugie. And Milo also gets petrified by the Flugie. Apparently, if you're under 18, the Flugie's petrifying stare turns you into a dummy. Around the same time, Justin drags Giada into the garage. This made for an awkward conversation with Roman. Alex has decided to go full mother mode and decided to lecture Billy for summoning the Flugie in the first place, and warns her that the Wizarding Tribunal is this close to taking away her wand. Honestly, I do like the idea that on the Wizard Tribunal, Alex is the devil's advocate. She'll deal with very problematic wizards and see potential in them, and try to find a way to get them to be not less problematic, well, obviously less problematic for the wizarding world as a whole, but on the right path. It's honestly a natural evolution of her character. When she was wild when she was young, but then she grew out of those days, but she didn't either fully regret them, but she does realize, yeah, this was out of line and could have ended really badly. Let's prevent more of those. Billy, seeing everything as an opportunity to prove herself, tries to solve this problem on her own. Roman isn't particularly happy, seeing that she caused the problem in the first place and clearly has no idea how to fix it, so she just throws him into a nowhere zone, throwing him out of the plot. We sort of get Justin's emotional climax right here when he says, yes, he does miss being a wizard, he does miss the magic, and Billy needs a teacher, and he's willing to do it. Of course, the Flugie is here, and Billy's attempts to banish it only causes it to grow, and then Alex decides to gamble on getting frozen and have Justin banish the Flugie. Well, Billy banished the Flugie with Justin's help. So, Alex totally got petrified on purpose. The episode frames it as her being strategically ambiguous, but come on, we know Alex, we know how these plots go, and we also saw her smiling as she got frozen. So everyone gets unpetrified, and Milo was apparently on the bike for hours to the point that he needs to rub ointment on himself in order to, well, recover. Meanwhile, Roman was in the nowhere zone and probably saw mysterious colors unlike anything seen on Earth. He's also not too happy about Billy living with them now. Obviously, Billy can't be trained in the house because the family is not supposed to know about wizards, so the lair is the option. It's actually a great recreation of the original that they actually pieced together well. I think they said in interviews that the sofas were actually found in prop rooms across LA. So, Billy needs to be ready for something that was prophesized to happen, and Alex will figure out what the threat is while Justin will do the training so that Billy will be ready to confront it. Now we open episode 2 with Billy sending a message to Alex. Yeah, this is sort of her room right now, and it's not great. It's just a glorified storage closet, even a couch instead of a bed. So apparently, Billy didn't get the memo from last episode that she should only do magic in the lair and starts conjuring random stuff, and ultimately trying to use magic to make breakfast as some kind of good deed. Yeah, Justin ain't too happy about that because the whole be secret about the wizardry thing they're not supposed to know. Though I will say this, Billy's normal teenage girl impression is severely lacking in areas such as saying Riz and Cap. I'm kidding, none of the girls I teach actually say Riz or Cap. They just say, well, actually, I think they do say Cap more often than Riz. I also think that they stare down at their phones way more often, even though they think I don't notice. Yeah, I notice. I can see light in a dark room. So, the boys haven't cleaned the bathroom in 2 weeks or done any other chores for that matter. I'm with Billy on this. That bathroom not being cleaned in 2 weeks disgusts me. So obviously the boys want to use magic to clean up everything and do everything, and Billy says she promised her dad that she wouldn't. This accidentally reveals that their dad is a wizard. It actually doesn't. What it does is that Billy said, I promised your dad I wouldn't do magic in the house. And then Roman and Milo go, wait, you promised Dad? Dad knows about this? And then Billy says that Justin is a wizard. Whoops. Obviously, she decides to trap the boys in slow motion as she finds a way to remove their memories. So, Giada is an investigative reporter and really wants to ask more about Billy because mysterious girl living with them sounds weird and you might want to know why they're living with you and you might want to know more about them in order to get to know them so you can find some kind of common ground. Okay, back to Billy. She goes to Wikipedia to find a potion of memory wiping. Instead, she just erases the boys with the potion. Quite literally. The bottom half or top half of them is completely invisible. To quote Dr. Strange, sometimes warnings come after the spells. Except this really doesn't work since Billy didn't even read the spell itself. She's still mentally not wanting to get kicked out, so she doesn't want Justin to know about this. Also, she lost her wand in the struggle with Roman. Meanwhile, Giada is still interrogating Justin over Billy, even using an interrogation light. Lady, what's wrong with you? Actually, no, what's wrong with Justin for breaking under this setup? While Roman and Milo help Billy find the wand, Justin calls. Of course, Justin just thinks Roman is wearing Milo's pants. I mean, really, Justin? Really? You're just buying this? This ruse, thankfully, lasts only 10 seconds. Yeah, it is totally what it looks like, Justin. And Justin restores him with a wave of a wand. And Giada saw all that. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting convo. Billy also takes Justin's whole just go line as her being kicked out. Yeah, this conversation is just the info dump to Giada, and Billy doesn't get kicked out even though she interpreted that whole statement as being kicked out. Billy gets the new room, then Phantomus appears, that's what the credits say, the end. As an opening, I find these episodes to be good and serviceable for a Disney Channel sitcom, but as a sequel to Wizards of Waverly Place, I have some reservations. I'm so glad the whole family knew about the Wizards by episode 2 so we can avoid the possibility of getting a season-long will they, won't they situation. Now for some questionable lore pieces. Justin married a mortal. He really should have lost his powers since wizards can't marry non-wizards. It's why his own dad, Jerry Russo, gave his powers to his brother because he technically won the wizard competition, but he ended up getting, love instead. And they clearly remember the idea of power transferal since Alex brings up being the family wizard. But there's a strange line from Alex about how the wizard tribunal wants to take Billy's wand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall that being a plot point in the original series. Wands are basically treated like pens. I think Max broke his wand a few times. But at the same time, why the wand when you can just simply drain powers? It's not like she has the capability to do hand magic in order to beat seasoned wizards or anything, unless the plot demands that. And yes, hand magic is established to exist. It was actually a plot point in the movie. In terms of casting, I think they nailed Alkeo, I think that's how it's pronounced, Theo and Max Mimatenko as Roman and Milo, respectively. They do legitimately resemble David Henry, and Roman as a character, I did imagine him just being a mini Justin. I also find Alkeo's expressions to be rather enjoyable. Don't know if the guy was a theater kid or not, but it does make sense considering how he seems to, I don't want to say overact because overacting is seen as a bad thing, but he does a lot more theater based expressions. Mainly because when you're on a stage, you kind of need to ham up your acting a bit more since you're not only projecting your voice, unless you have microphones, or just trying to work generally within the limits of what theater will allow you to work. I don't know, I just get theater kid energy from the guy. Meanwhile, Milo, I think he should lean into more of the creepy horror stuff when it comes to wizardry. In fact, I think it could be an interesting plot point when it comes to jealousy, rather than just be the younger sibling who acts uncharacteristically several years older while still being dumb, like, what's his name from Coop and Cammy Ask the World? Ollie, I think his name was. I think they could lean into him being more into the liking of the weirdness and possibly even wishing he was a wizard. As for Billy, I was kinda worried she would just be another Alex, and she kinda is, but at the same time, there's something interesting about her. The abandonment issues. Because I wouldn't be surprised if this show tackled something a bit more mature and say she was abused or exploited as a child. The issues such as wanting to handle everything on her own, the constant need to prove herself, massive issues about being kicked out and kicked around, all seem to indicate that she was mistreated as a child. I also find it a bit interesting, at least in my head that I'm theorizing, that the enemies that are after her, they're related to her. Why? Because it's going to be a clash between found family, which is the Russos and Billy, versus blood family, who is ready to exploit you no matter what. And given that this guy is credited as like Phantasmus, no, he is probably not having any good interest in her. As for her dynamic with Roman, yeah, you're going to end up comparing it to Justin and Alex. I think the biggest issue with this whole show, and it's probably going to plague it for its entire run, is the general issue with Next Generation stories as a whole. Focus too much on the previous generation, the next generation will start looking like window dressing. Focus too much on the next generation and not make them interesting or just end up retreading old grounds in different wrapping papers, then you're going to be seen as a spotlight leech from the old generation. It's how you play your cards with next generation versus old generation. People come here for the old generation. That was their childhood. Then you have to justify the new generation sitting around. And I know the dynamic is a bit different because Roman doesn't have magical powers, and Milo is nowhere near as ditzy as Max, especially during later seasons when Max couldn't even spell his own name in like a spelling bee episode or something like that. But it's going to be a nice balancing act that I really want to see succeed. Please. I'm actually invested in this. Those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.